GM. Welcome to what's going to be another great episode of DevNTell. So if you didn't know, DevNTell is a 30-minute window for people who are founders, weekend hackers, or anyone in between to showcase their interesting projects they've built using Web3 technology. And today I'm ecstatic to welcome Joyce, who's founder of Memento of a Dialogue Collection, as well as a OG DD member. So if you didn't know, this collection, this NFT collection, is made up of 100 generative artworks embedded with real Ethereum messages dating back from 2016. So if you stick around for today's episode, you'll see Joyce tell her story of learning how to code through the Developer DAO, through the mentorship program, and how it led to her creating this generative art collection. All right, let's get into it. GM. Welcome back to the show, Joyce. Pleasure to have you back on.
Thank you. It's so nice to see you.
Yes, likewise. So, folks, if you didn't know, Joyce was one of the early people who came on the show back when we were still hosting it on Discord. So we've come a long way since then, and I'm ecstatic to have you back on here to get that new experience. Perhaps if folks didn't catch that earlier episode, did you want to give a brief introduction about yourself?
Sure. So I'm actually a lawyer developer, and most recently also artist. So I joined crypto back in 2017. I was one of the attorneys at Consensus, and since then have been doing various things, including learning to code and creating my first generative art project called Memento of a Dialogue. So wanted to share that with you all today.
Awesome. And yeah, I want to deep dive a little bit on this transition you've taken. So what exactly inspired you or made you want to go from a Web3 lawyer to learning how to code? Was there like a particular thing you wanted to build and you're like, oh, I wish I could do this on my own? Or
so I'm one of those people who have a ton of ideas in my head all the time. And I always felt like I had the ideas, but no way to really implement them. So in a way, I felt like I was just someone who had thoughts, but like without a voice. And I've actually tried to learn to code even when I was at a law firm. So this is like pre-crypto. It was like I tried to learn Python. So in the morning I would try to do like a boot camp, but I was doing that in isolation, and it was before like ChatGPT, obviously, and so I just kept getting stuck. I mean, I can learn about it and like take notes, but there's no like application. I just got really stuck, and there was no one to help me, so I kind of gave up on that. So fast forward to last year, so it was. Basically, I had left Consensus, had been doing started my own practice to do like advisory work, and I just had more flexibility. I also became like a mom during these last several years, and so when you are a mom, like you start to have to really prioritize your life, and not in the usual way you might think of, but you start to think like, if I'm going to take time away from my daughter, I need to be doing the things I like really want to do. And so through a few different also non-linear events here, like I decided, I'm just going to learn this once and for all. I could build in more flexibility now, so I can just learn on my own time more easily. And so I started doing a Udemy course. It was the Angela Yu like full stack web development course, which you probably heard of as well. So I started doing that, and I got stuck, and I didn't realize like with like development, like when you're stuck, sometimes you just have no other thing to do but for post your problems on the internet. And I posted my problems all over the internet. And one of the places I put it in was in the Developer DAO Discord. And Pablo saw my like very desperate question, and he DM'd me and said, "Hey, I'm actually launching a program. Would you like a mentor?" And I said, yes, I definitely want a mentor. So I applied for the mentorship program, and he matched me up with a guy named Chris, who is a senior software engineer at the Graph, also a DD member. And so he is just like so kind, and he basically spent like seven months with me, like an hour a week. And I did my homework, and we talked about the things we were stuck in. And we built, I built a thing called like a math golf game as like a practice experiment. So there's a front end, there's a back end. And so with him, like he kind of taught me the things to focus on. And like coincidentally, it was also when ChatGPT really blew up. And so I had a human mentor, and then also like a AI mentor, which really was just like those two things were get together was like the unlock to like basically allowing someone like me to who's very motivated but just needs a little extra help to really get things going.
That's amazing to hear and very inspiring. I'm sure some people that are watching today who are on the fence of wanting to learn how to code, I'm sure they'll be inspired to take that first step after hearing your story. And good on you. That's amazing to hear that you've unlocked a superpower, so to speak, when you learn to code, which is like really it makes things much more easier and easier to do. I'm much like yourself. I have so many different ideas, but you'll find that now that you have the superpower, it's the time. Which
Right.
one to concentrate on?
Yes, it's true, right? And I'm really glad that I took kind of like the longer path to learn the fundamentals, because even with like AI, right? Like it's only helpful if you ask it the right question and really knowing kind of what questions to ask, like what to isolate. Like I think that's really the key to making even the AI tools useful.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you have to know what to ask, and at the same time, when you get a response back, you have to know how to identify whether or not it actually gave you the right thing or it's leading
Exactly.
you down some rabbit hole it thinks is right. But that's a tangent on its own.
Mhm.
I guess when you were learning how to code, what were some of the different things that you were going through in terms of the learnings? Like, were you learning predominantly just front end development, Web3, blockchain interactions with smart contracts? What types of things did you end up learning?
Yeah, so actually it did not start with anything smart contracts related, because like I didn't even get the other stuff, so I wasn't really trying to learn the new stuff. And the new stuff is so much harder to learn because there's no good structured learning materials, right? And even the tools, like some of them just don't work. So it's like you trying to figure out a new thing for yourself with things that are also really nascent. Um, I didn't start with that. So, with like the boot camp, it was really starting with the real basics, like what is the internet, right? Like what exactly is an API? Um, like, what is a function, right? Like really, really basic stuff. And having like a simple project, which was called Math Golf. I call it Math Golf, but it was really inspired by just a counter. So one of the first things you do is you basically create a button. Every time you click on it, it adds one, but you have to record it on a database. And that's all it is, right? It's just connecting those together. And so this Math Golf game really is like a gamified version of that. But yeah, learn the super basic stuff. And then later, we started making like a decentralized math golf game. So we actually went through the process to put the back end into a Solidity contract. I think we actually put it up on Polygon. And yeah, so did not start with the fancy Web3 stuff, but started with the very, very normal JavaScript things.
It's funny you call JavaScript normal. It's the whole section of memes around that. But yes,
Really?
yeah, that's wonderful, and that's exactly how you should take it. Learning the fundamentals is very, very, very important instead of diving into a particular niche after the fact. But I guess in terms of Billy is saying completely opposite of him.
Really?
yeah. Whatever works. Solidity first. Solidity first. It's all good. Well,
Yeah, and
solidity
like,
is kind of
so when I started, I didn't even know my computer had a terminal. Like, that's how
Ah,
much I didn't know.
yeah.
Like, the fact that I could pull up a terminal was, like, shocking to me. But now I'm, like, pushing my changes, like, onto GitHub, like, via Git, right? And now I kind of understand that process. So, yeah, I feel like I've, like, really come a long way. Really, like, just with Chris's, like, help. I really can't thank him enough for that.
Awesome. Awesome. Shout out to Chris on the show and Piablo for getting the ball
Oh,
rolling.
yes, for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess okay, this is great segue. So what exactly is Memento of a Dialogue, and
Mm,
what inspired you to create it? Uh, I can
yeah.
bring the I can bring it on stage if
Oh,
you want
sure.
to. Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, I have no idea where to see the people who are listening live. Is there a way to see them?
There's a section, the comment section
Oh,
should show up with all the comments, but you might
oh, I
have like
see.
a weird thing. Yeah.
I see. I see. Okay, I see that now.
Yeah.
So okay, let's talk about memento of a dialogue. So I love Web3 because I really, really believe in like the idea that you can do things permissionlessly, right? And I think a lot of the things that people do now are like real fancy, but if you kind of get to the really core of what everything is, it's just the ability to write something on a public platform that no one can erase and no one can prevent you from doing so, right? Like that is really the idea. And um, many years ago, I remember seeing this CoinDesk article about someone who had memorialized like a whistleblower, and they did that like for COVID, like on Ethereum. And then I've just always like thought of that. It kept it in the back of my mind. Um, so really intrigued by people putting like human messages on there. And so when I was like brainstorming on what to do with our project, I definitely wanted to use open data. At first, I was thinking about using wallet data, but I wanted to be able to put it on a platform and not have to necessarily do all the contract work myself. And that caused a few limitations because the platforms range from like art blocks smart contracts where they're like everything needs to be super pure and nothing can live off chain. And so then I wasn't able to do anything really dynamic. And then so I came across like Highlight, which has a few tools that lets you do a few dynamic things, one of them being using the time. And so I kind of kept that in there and then brainstormed about like what types of open data exist that are like make sense to actually incorporate. And so I decided to use Ethereum messages as the basis because I just think it's so powerful that people can write something on there and and then it's just there forever. Like there's something about that that really speaks to me. And so then I decided on messages, and it was really quite hard to source these 100 messages. I did it by hand. I found this tool called Ethereum.ms, and I just searched different keywords until I found like the 100 that I was happy with, that had no profanity, that like had a nice range.
Oh, so all these messages were handpicked by you.
Every single one of these messages were handpicked. I had like an entire spreadsheet with them.
Yeah.
I probably went from like 200-ish that are appropriate, and then I like parsed them down to 100 that, yeah, were the most interesting and also like did not have anything offensive in them.
Wow, that must have been a lot of work.
It was. I spent like a few weeks doing that just in itself. Yeah, so that's kind of like the genesis of the idea. Like, should I dive deeper into the art
Yeah.
itself?
Yeah, 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 definitely.
Okay, so here is, maybe I should just pull up this one. So this is written in P5.js code. And so here on highlight, you can basically run the code and it will show you random generations of that. So a few things to highlight there is the background gradient, you see changes. So the top half of the gradient refers to the time of the message. So the timestamp in UTC. And then the bottom half, oh, that's a good one. So the top here you can tell is morning time UTC. And then the bottom half is time of the mint. So you can tell that the person, if this had been a real piece, minted at the PM UTC time. And so, which is why I added like this UTC clock there. So these are the pieces that have been minted thus far. So from here, you basically have a representation of these two people in two different times, right? The top being when the message was created, and then the bottom being when the message was discovered. So here, this is number 8, and in the details, where is the metadata? Oh, sorry, right here. So this is the metadata, and you'll see that there is a message transaction hash inside every single one of these. And if you go to Etherscan, you can just drop that in. And this is the message. And so with each mint, you get a surprise message that I've curated. That this one was from September 6th, 2023. I've also created a space here on the website that shows all the minted pieces and the corresponding message. So you can, ooh, I don't know what that one is. Is someone minting one right now? But this is the most recent one that was minted. And so this is a message. You can double check that on Etherscan. So visually, that's the time-based component. You'll see here that there's also a color tone. Oh, someone said something. Okay.
You got a live minter.
Oh, that's wow.
Yeah.
We're gonna go check out your message really soon.
Yeah, legend.
So also, there's a color tone, right? Because we're talking about like human perspectives here, and we don't really know what the circumstances are that this person is writing something like this. And so I wanted to add this additional layer to it where these are basically lenses in which you can view each of these messages. So if you look at the about here, so these are the color palettes. There are different varieties to them, but like these are meant to be like lenses that you can use to read the message, because who knows like why or when or like who was doing this, right? So the idea here is someone wrote these messages. We don't know who they are. They don't know if anyone was going to see them, but through this art, we've discovered them. And then my kind of dream is to see like, can we show these message people that we actually read their message? So that is the the experiment here. Okay, so let's see what the latest one was. So this is using, oh, weird. So this is using the API from Alchemy. So now this is the first like bug I've seen.
Nice, live bugs. not the first time. Not the first time.
Yeah, on a live stream too. Now I don't know what to think about this. Okay, so this is, yeah, I guess Alchemy hasn't indexed it yet, but this is yours. This is the newest one. And let's see what this message is. I'm so curious. Here it is. It says, friendship is like a snowflake, delicate and beautiful, but also strong and enduring like ice. It's true.
Interesting.
Yeah, so in some of these, you'll see that there is dimple. Wait, no. Yeah, so if you throw the hash, go to highlight and then throw the hash on Etherscan, that's probably a little easier. And some of them have like other messages that they've written. So whenever you have some time, you can also just dig into the Etherscan and see what else exists. Yeah, but I've found messages of people who kind of seem like they're posting from Gaza. Yeah, there's just like some real deep stuff there. So hopefully, this project will, one, allow people to realize this exists, and then two, like kind of lead them to be more curious to dig through other things that will exist in the future.
This is amazing. I think I may have missed it, and I apologize if I did, but the actual triangles themselves, how are those generated? Are they from the actual message, or?
So they're not. I thought a lot about like how much of the message in itself I should use. And I came to the conclusion that, like someone else wrote this, right? Maybe thinking about it from like a copyright perspective, like I don't really want to take their stuff. I don't think it was mine to take. So I thought it was fair to post a transaction hash, because that's just, a record. That's just like the receipt kind of. So the triangles, like the three sides, three corners represents like a relationship between the message person, myself as the artist, and also the collector. And if you look at the squares, like what inspired me to do that is really like a Polaroid picture. So for example, if you imagine you gave someone an Instax camera at like a wedding and they took a bunch of pictures and you ended up with a gallery wall of them, that's what the inspiration was. So each one of these squares and triangles have a uniquely generated rotation. That's what causes kind of like the organicness of it. So that's randomly generated using the hash of the transaction. And then I basically preset like 20 or 30 different patterns within the triangles that could be used. And like which one of those show up in a triangle, that's random also. So between like those variations and the angle, you actually come up with a lot of different ways that this can look. And also obviously the color palette. So within each of these shapes, we use the color palette, and the color is like never used twice in there. Yeah, so actually it was kind of tedious to make sure these lines all end up inside the triangle every single time. That was actually like took a lot of tweaking to do. But yeah, so that's what the art represents. Is how it's made. This is using P5.js.
Awesome. And is the image itself, just curious how you took the approach of where to store the image. Did you do like the SVG on chain, or are you storing the image somewhere else and then referencing it like on Arweave or something?
I believe that there is an image saved via highlight onto Arweave, or maybe they put the metadata into Arweave.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't think that the entire code is necessarily all posted there. I don't think that's the way
Yeah.
highlight does it. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just remember back when NFTs took off, there was like a method somebody came up with where they actually saved an entire SVG onto the smart contract code itself, and someone minted. It was quite convoluted, but it was interesting in that.
Yeah, these are not SVGs. So so there's that. So I think so as a part of this process, what Highlight does is it saves, I think, just like a screenshot at a certain time, and you can choose like at what time to take that screenshot. And then they upload it into their server.
Awesome. So I guess how many of the collection is left for minting, and where can people go to mint?
Yeah, so there's 100 of them total. There's 100 of them total, and I guess right now 37 has been minted.
Oh wow, it's amazing.
Yeah, so I guess we have another 60 something to go. You can do up to 5 at a time in a wallet. There's been, I think, 2 collectors who did 5 at a time. And yeah, so it's weird, right? Like this is like my first time being an artist. So there's a lot of dynamics I never really quite thought of. But I kind of feel like people, like you kind of worry like, oh, what if like no one buys it? Or like, what if I don't like sell out? But really, like it turns out I don't care. Part of it was like, there's a mission behind this. Like if you look at the way I price it, like I'm not really trying to turn this into my sole living, but it's been really interesting seeing who gets what. I feel like everyone who has minted has kind of gone like an appropriate one for them. So it's just been like really nice to see what people have been getting, because each one of these is unique. So it's just kind of like when you happen to mint one, that's the one you get. Yeah. So hopefully by next year I can get all of them out, because what I would love is to like use this as like the next step to create some more content with it. I'm talking to like a journalist next week to do like a little bit of a profile of the project, and then I'm kind of brainstorming on how to turn this into like the next conversation. If you think about the messages as like the original seeds, right? The initial Lego block. And then we've kind of like lifted it up from that into this layer, which is like the art layer. So then it's like, okay, could we then elevate it to the next layer? And so really you have this event that happened from a long time ago, really unknowingly, right? Like kind of prompting this next level of connection between all these people. And yeah, haven't figured out exactly what could be the right format, but maybe I can do like a podcast series with the collector or someone, or they can nominate someone, and maybe we can even write back a message to that wallet, right? At the end of it. I don't know, like a lot of things could be done with it. But now that we have like a pretty good size amount minted, I think this is kind of like the right time to start thinking of what that next step could be.
Yeah, and like you mentioned earlier too, it would be awesome to actually track down who made the messages, and perhaps those can be like your guests on that podcast or whatever.
Yeah, and just like be like, what happened? Like, what was
Yeah,
that?
yeah. What led you to write this? And now it's been artified. So, yeah. This is like fantastic, and I love the creativity here. You should have taken this to Art Basel. I think it's happening this week or something.
Yeah, it's happening right now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm cool enough yet for Art Basel, but maybe by next year we'll get a little bit more publicity on there. Yeah, but this is like a really new thing for me, so I'm also like learning the ropes on how to navigate kind of that ecosystem. Yeah, definitely all big learning process.
Yeah, I'll say. And it's you're like I mentioned at the start. This is an amazing journey, and I love the grit and consistency to get to this point. I guess as we're coming to a close, what would you say to somebody who's watching this today and they're on the fence of wanting to learn how to code, but need that like last little push to get them over? Like how would you inspire them?
I mean, I would just say that it's really worth it. And I would also say that you need to treat it like a job, which is harder said than done, because you still really need to have like a real time commitment to just practice, right? And to make all the mistakes and to learn by doing. But I would just say it's like really worth it. Like for me, like this would not have existed but for that, right? And now I get to like, share this with you, share this with people who are listening, and you're just able to make things happen that you otherwise would not, in a cost-effective way too, right? Like it's also unrealistic if I want to just hire a dev to do this, because I didn't know what it was going to look like. How can I can hire someone and be like, hey, I kind of have this idea, like that doesn't work. So it's really like the only way for me to have put kind of the thought together, but to use this as like the actual way to experiment. Yeah, it's just this would not have existed other than me being able to tinker with it continuously for an extended period of time.
Yeah, yeah, the consistency and the dedication is the way. And we're all rooting for you here at DD to keep going. This is an
Thanks,
amazing
Will.
project. And just before we let you go, what is the best way to keep up with your project, and how can people reach out to you if they want to talk?
Yeah, so I have a Twitter account for the project. It is at Memento, Memento Dialogue. Now, do I not have the? Now, why is this still not pulling up from Alchemy? Okay, gotta fix that. But the account is Memento Dialogue. I think that's the best way to keep up with the project. Oh, I'm not signing here. I don't know if you can pull it up on your side.
We have this. We have it posted
You have
on
it posted?
the YouTube description.
Okay,
I just
perfect.
wanted you to say it with words.
Oh, yeah, so it's on Twitter. You can just DM me because
Yeah.
it's just me on both of the accounts anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, or if you're in DD, just ping me on Discord. Although with like the fraud settings, it might be a little bit more difficult. But yeah, happy to chat, happy to explain through anything, or if this is something you want to do yourself, I'm also happy to chat about that too.
Awesome. Great stuff. And we are 1 minute over, 2 minutes over. I know I promised you we'd be 30, but it was okay. It was worth it. Yeah, just want to thank you again, Joyce, for coming on the show and taking the time to show us this amazing piece of art that
Yeah,
you've
thank you for your
created.
time.
Yeah, my pleasure. And you're welcome back on anytime if you want to show us the evolution of your project. If you take it when you take it to the next step, yeah, we'd love to hear what you did.
Yeah, and thank you for minting that live. That's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm kind of starting to think about the V2 of the website just to make it a little bit easier to navigate. So I'll let you know when that's up.
excellent. Loved it. Love it. All right. I guess with that, I just want to wish everybody a very happy Friday, happy weekend, wherever you may be, and we'll catch you back here for another episode of DevNTell. All right, all.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.